Pat. Pat had good jive or a pleasing personality. He was a sweet talker. He would cheat or steal by trick, and the victim would still like Pat, even if his crimes were exposed. Pat was the brother to call to run errands, move goods, and for house and equipment repairs. I remember Pat and Josh as the siblings that touched me the most. In childhood, they touched me by physically fighting. Each day we fought for fun. Pat was a mama's boy. He would threaten to tell mommy. I would say nothing but nothing, Mom, as she threatened to beat me. Pat would groom and dress me perfectly. Although he internalized the push towards education, he struggled between Hubie's way and my way. The fact we looked like twins created a special connection between us, but in the end, Hubie's connection was stronger. In 1986, Pat was released from prison. A car hit me. Jack and Pat came to San Diego to help me, and Pat stayed. After 3 months, he started using drugs. My possessions and money started disappearing. James and Jack came to San Diego and removed Pat from my life. A few months later, he took a prison vacation. After his release, Pat worked for Jack and married. When Jack closed his business, Pat moved to Lakeland, Florida, and found a job and bought a home. A few years later, he was laid off. There was a multiple of day burglaries during a 3-month period, and Pat was arrested for them. I went to Lakeland and managed to have Pat released without bail. Months later, I managed to get the charges dropped. Pat flew back and forth from San Diego to work for me. My partner and staff loved Pat. He was a calm Pinnock. I was a hothead. We had our 5-minute fuck you fight each day. Each morning, he would cook breakfast, then use magic shave on me. Nigga, you do 5 suits before 9 a.m. Then I will file and serve the bitches today, Pat would say as he drove my lift van at 4 a.m. to work. Teddy gave me 40 for my 40, he said. Pat, I'm broke. I would say, come on, mother. You ain't broke. I'm broke. All you got to do is sue for cake, he would say. I told your ass to go back to school, I would say. That'd be old shit, he would say. We had this conversation each morning, and by 6 a.m. lawsuits were filed and served, and Pat had his 40. Pat would go back to Lakeland for months. I would fly to Florida, and Pat would drive me everywhere. Pat's wife would express her unhappiness with Pat's driving role. Pat did not care. I violated the science of saving rules with Pat. My desire to save Pat blinded me to the willing rule. Pat had a substance abuse habit he was not willing to change through intense effort. I ignored his constant need for beer, weed, and other drugs. I tried to save Pat without cutting Pat off until he was willing to change his substance abuse habit. In late 2003, I was in my office when I received a phone call informing me Pat was murdered in connection with a drug deal gone bad. I cried for 2 minutes, then took action. It is interesting that I perform best with challenges to overcome. My friend David Bostic once said, anything a white man can do, I can do. So to me, any challenge or failure is to test my will to imagine how I can do it and what action is needed. I put this gift to work upon learning of the death of Pat. Within 2 hours from San Diego, I made all the funeral arrangements and I continued to work. I must note my fall started when my protector, Pat, died.